Okay. Now, I know we're separated, but we're normally grouped. The two of you are usually back here, so we're going to stay with your group. And team leaders, raise your hand so everybody sees you. And we know what team leaders are going to do. When we rotate, your team leaders are going to be responsible for assisting you. If you need help, let your team leader know, and I'll be coming around too. All right? We have 2 more presentations that were brought in today, and you see them up. And we'll talk about that at the end of the class. Gabrielle, if someone comes in late, I want you to make sure that they have their card, okay? All right, I'm going to leave them here. Okay, no one has seen Ronald? Good morning, Tom.
Good morning.
How are you doing? Good, happy to see you. Sit in your normal seat, and if it isn't available, just take a chair and pull it up close to your seat, okay? Good morning. How are you doing? Good, good. Come and have a seat where you normally sit, Angelica.
Don't forget your card.
Your card. And I received your message, Angelica, so we're fine. We're on page 137 in our source books, and we are talking about the fast. And remember, our theme for this unit was protest and revolt. We talked about animal farms, we talked about Dr. Martin Luther King's speech, and now we're reading about Mahatma Gandhi, who, as we read on Monday, he did a nonviolent protest. And we're going to talk about what happened in the very first part of our story, and then we'll move on to the second part. But who wants to give us a little summary about what happened? About in the fast, about what has happened so far. Anybody? The fast. Who wants to give us a summary? Carl, Farah, Natalie, Ernest, Joanna, Angelica, Clarence, Keith, Gabrielle, Tom. Okay, let me give you a little hint. I'll jolt you a little bit with some electricity. Mahatma Gandhi was a leader for the people in India, and there was a strike happening. Do you remember that? Yeah? And so then what else happened, Natalie?
He went on a fasting.
He did what?
He went on a fasting.
He said he was going to fast. Why would he say that?
To get what he wants.
What did he want? What made him say that? Look on page, the second paragraph, 137. But at last they began to show signs of flagging. Just as physical weakness in men manifests itself in irascibility, their attitude toward the Blacklegs became more and more menacing as the strike seemed to weaken. And I began to fear an outbreak of rowdyism on their part. Now, we hear I a lot when we're reading this because Gandhi is talking in the first person. This is his autobiography where he is telling the story. Go down to the second to last sentence on that same page where it says they. And Clarence, I want you to start reading there. They had repeated.
They have repeated it before me day after day, and the very idea that they might know now going back upon it with me, inconceivable.
Inconceivable.
Inconceivable. Was it pride or was it my love for the label? And my patient regard for a truth that was at the back of this feeling, who can say?
Okay, was it my pride or was it my passionate regard for truth that was at the back of this feeling? What he's saying there is, Gandhi is questioning now. He's saying they gave me their word. But could they possibly go back on their word? Because their word is their bond. So Carl promises me that he's going to go to Walgreens to get this poster. And I've relied on Carl. I put all my trust in him, and we shook hands, and we didn't need a contract because it wasn't that important. I just had your trust and your word, and I knew that you were going to do what you said you were going to do. But in the back of my mind, Carl, I felt, maybe Carl is not going to do it. And I didn't say it to anybody, but I'm getting this feeling that perhaps he may not, for whatever reason. It isn't as if he didn't want to, but someone may say, well, Carl, instead of going to Walgreens today for Miss Smith, let's go on up to, this party that's happening up the way, then you can go there afterwards. So he was a little distracted. And so these people that made this promise to Gandhi perhaps may have been distracted. They could have been bribed. Someone could have said, here's $1 million if you don't go this way. And money can tempt us to do all kinds of things. Or if you do go this way, your family may not have the jobs that they normally had. Because remember, Gandhi was a leader for the common people. And he was a leader for the workers who worked for $15 a month. And they worked 14-hour days and were paid very little. So in the back of his mind, he was thinking, perhaps they're not going to do this. Okay? And it didn't mean that Carl didn't want to do it, but he may have been tempted by other things. So continue reading, Carl, one morning, 138.
One morning, it was at Milham's meeting while I was still groping and unable to see my way. Groping and unable to see my way clearly. A light came to me, unbidden and all by themselves. The words came to my lips. Unless the strikers rally, I declare to the meeting and continue the strike till a settlement is reached, or till they leave the mills altogether. I will not touch any food.
Okay, so there. That is the breaking point of the story. And I know some of you are saying, oh yeah, Miss Smith, I remember this. So he's saying one morning, it was at a meeting, and Gandhi normally went to these meetings every morning, and he talked to his people and he motivated them. Come on, we can do it. We're going to get what we want. So in the back of his mind, he still has this little feeling something isn't going to happen. So he's going to the meeting, and he's a little petite man, as we can see in the picture. And he's walking up, very calm and patiently, and he gets up to the podium, and he has all these things in his mind. So Gandhi says, and he didn't shout like Martin Luther King and bang his fist, and he didn't stand, before them like Major did in Animal Farm. He stood before them very humble, and he quietly said, unless the strikers rally and continue to strike till a settlement is reached, or till they leave the mills altogether, I, Gandhi, your leader of all people, I will not touch any food. I'm going to fast. Remember that? And that's kind of where we stopped on Monday. So we're going to go down to page 138. And imagine, your leader is saying this. And remember we said, do we think our leader would say this? Do we think our president would say something like this if it was something we didn't want? Do we think Mr. Bush would say, I'm going to fast if these people aren't given the quality care that they need and the insurance that they need and the jobs? I will fast. You think he'd say that?
No.
Not really. That's what we think. We don't know, but he hasn't done it yet. But this is telling you what kind of leader Gandhi is. He's so passionate. He feels for them. So he's putting himself at their level, and he says, I'm going to do the utmost. And Gandhi wasn't a young man. If he were your age or my age, he could probably go a day or two, without anything. But he's an older man. He probably has, heart problems and other little health issues. He needs his nutrition. You're looking at him, and he's already little and petite. Okay, you see him? You see his picture on page 137? So what he's ultimately saying, Angelica, is that if we don't get what we want, then, I'm just not going to eat anymore. I'm going to sacrifice my life and my health. Put it away, please. And I could possibly die, is what he's saying. I'll die for you, Keith. I won't eat anymore, and I'll possibly die. So the bottom of page 138, and Jimmy, why don't you read that for me, darling? Just read. The laborers were thunderstruck.
The laborers were thunderstruck, tears began to cross down, and
Anasubehenes.
Anastasia cheeks. The laborers broke out, not Not you, but we shall fast.
Okay, so the laborers are saying, oh no, not you. You don't do that because we know you could possibly kill yourselves. Kill yourself. Not you, but we shall fast. Continue, Jimmy.
It would be monstrous if you were to fast. Please forgive us for our lapse. We will now remain faithful to our pledge to the end.
Okay.